Hey YouTube, it's Amethyst and I am super excited to come at you with this video. So I decided to do the intros again to the videos that I posted on my Portal series just because they were really bad. They were like too close to the camera, the lighting was terrible, etc, etc. And I was all over the place, so I'm going to try to redo the intros a little bit better, which is why I'm not dressed up as the character that this costume is. But however, some of the intros will stay the same. I believe it's the makeup one, hair and makeup is going to stay the same. So yeah, I'm going to keep the footage to some of them, but I even have note cards so that I can keep my thoughts organized. Today's video is going to be how to make the Portal gun, and to kind of just give you a little bit of information. Portal is a game series, my favorite game series. I'm not a gamer, but I do love video games, and I love this video game. It is amazing. And if you haven't played it and you just randomly clicked on this video, then I recommend you go try it out, especially if you're a gamer, and especially if you want a boss costume for a costume party, because then you can dress up as Chell. Chell, by the way, is the main character. She was well known for being a female because in the feminism aspect of video games, a lot of women like the fact that she was a female, and if you look up the articles and stuff on it, you can see what I mean. But it was pretty cool that she was a girl, not because necessarily women are power, but just because it was cool. It was kind of different. It's a different game, and it's different that she's a female, so I really liked that. And I get to dress up as her, so, you know. But if you are a guy, that doesn't mean you can't dress up as her. You just might not want to use high-heeled boots, and you just might not want to do hair and makeup, so you could just be a dude, Chell. You know, that works too. So, yeah, it's a great series. I recommend you guys check it out. There's going to be a third game coming out soon, which I am super stoked about, and I'm going to make my dad buy it for me. But for this series of dressing up for her, we are going to do hair and makeup, the gun, the boots, and the outfit. There's going to be four videos, all of which will be linked down below. So this project will take you some time. It took me a total of 3 days to completely finish it. Not 3 24-hour days, obviously, but just 3 days. The handle should be removable in the gun, which you will understand a little bit more later, but I put a handle in the back for me to hold it. You want that to be removable so that you can get to the lights in case they break. And speaking of the lights, I ended up buying a $6 tricolor light that you press the button and then it changes. That was a little bit difficult to use, and I recommend going to the Dollar Tree because sometimes during the year they will have these knockoff lightsabers, and they have a blue and a green one, or no, they have a blue and a red one. And so I think you guys should try out that before trying out the more expensive one, just because you want this to be as cheap as possible. Not necessarily quality, but just, you know, prices. So just so you know, there are cheaper options from what I chose. And speaking of being cheap, if you were to go out and buy the gun, it would be so much more expensive than if you were to make it, like a lot of cosplay things are. So, yeah, this is cheap. I think, give or take, it'll cost you about $50. I think it cost me $40, around that area, just because I could get some things free, and my dad already had some supplies. But yeah, so I'll link a materials list down below as well, because you're going to want a materials list, and if I have enough time, I will put the prices for Home Depot, how much Home Depot charges, but I might not do that just because right now I'm kind of restricted with time. Something else is that the tutorial that will be linked down below, which is the tutorial that I followed originally, is kind of hard to follow. It's confusing. It seemed like they half-assed it, and I really appreciate that they posted it because then I was able to show you guys, but I don't think that it should be your point of reference, especially because the measurements in their video are actually wrong. They used a 2-inch PVC pipe, but they said 3-inch in the voiceover, so it kind of confused me and my dad a lot, and I'm assuming it confused other people as well, so just use the measurements I use, and don't follow their measurements, etc, etc, but I would recommend checking it out just because they gave me my point of reference, and that would be nice of you guys to go look at it, maybe give it a thumbs up, or if you want, you can reference me down below in their comment section if you want to. I also found some blueprints, and they don't really follow the right sizing, but it would really help you just to see how everything goes and where it fits. Also, I used a Dremel in this video, and I highly recommend you either invest in a Dremel or find someone who owns a Dremel because it will make your life so much easier. And so yeah, just find a Dremel somewhere. Your uncles, your dad, your neighbors, someone might have a Dremel, and I highly recommend you find one because otherwise you might not even want to do this without a Dremel, honestly. It's just going to take so much time. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Let's get on into the tutorial. So the first thing that I did with my dad was align all the pieces as you see here, just to make sure everything fit right and it looked okay. We cut the 2-inch pipe to about 13 inches in length and the 3-inch to about 10 inches in length, and we used a power saw for this. Then we took the light that we were using and we figured out how big we would need that clear cut to be so that you could see the light through the PVC pipes. We used a piece of paper for a template and taped it on before tracing it, and with a Dremel we cut it out. You'll see that we made a little foam tube which we put in between the 3-inch and the 2-inch, and you can see how we're doing it here. And the reason why we did this is so that we could place it in between the 2-inch and the 3-inch so that when we trace out the cut from the 3-inch, it would be the same as if we had actually completed the gun, and so that it would be aligned properly. And then we cut both of those holes out with the Dremel. Okay, so then we cut out 2 more of those foam pieces by tracing the outside of both the 2-inch and the 3-inch, creating this, foam disc looking thing. And we sandwiched that between the 2 pieces as you see here. So we have 2 in the back and then 1 in the front. And the front is the piece that's facing away from you when you're finished with the gun. So then we took that plastic piece and cut it to where if you were to lay it out, it would be a rectangle. And then we placed that over the 2-inch and in between the 3-inch, and you can see how we used foam pieces to reinforce that just so that it wouldn't slip, and hopefully you can see how we did that. Then I took a 3-inch coupling, set that onto the back of the portal gun, and reinforced that with some hot glue. We took some painter's tape, put that over the plastic, and cut it out, and then we filled that with caulking in this instance, but if you need to, you could just use plumbing epoxy. Where we use plumbing epoxy and caulking, you can do either or. It doesn't matter. You can do just plumbing epoxy, or you could just do just caulking, or you could do both. It really doesn't make that big of a difference. We just happened to have both, and one was easier for one thing than the other. So this is how it turned out right here. And then my dad took a 4-inch coupling, I'm pretty sure, I'll check back with you on that, and drilled 2 holes into it and put like a handle looking thing in there. But you want to make sure that the handle is removable somehow if you want to change out the light if it ever dies. Really regret gluing the handle in, because when our light died we couldn't fix it. Then we took, actually I think these are the 4-inch couplings, and we put hot glue onto those and stuck them together, and this was supposed to go on the back of the portal gun, and this would be much more realistic, but it was just too big and too heavy for my arms, so we ended up not using those. So then with some plumber's putty or plumber's epoxy, depending on what you call it from where you're from, we stuck that in between the gaps of the tubes, and then we took some of the tubing or the foam and we stuck that in as well. If you want, you can use caulking. You don't have to use plumber's putty. And you can also put the foam in first if you would like. Then my dad took a 2-inch coupling, cut that 3 times so that we had 2 medium pieces and a small piece. You're going to want the small piece to be at the very edge of the portal gun, and if you look up a video or a picture, you'll see what I mean. And I put mine on backwards or wrong. It doesn't really make that big of a difference, but if you want to make it more accurate like the real one, I recommend doing that instead. Then I went ahead and glued the handle onto the tube, and like I said, totally regret this. I wish I had done something else to where I could have made it removable, but what's done is done. Then I went ahead with some painter's tape and went over the plastic piece just to make sure that I wouldn't get any black on it when we spray painted it. I spray painted it twice just to make sure that there was a good amount on there, and then let it dry completely before peeling off the tape to reveal this pretty cool looking portal gun. Like, this alone looks really cool. Then with some Sharpie I went over that red piece on the light. And then these are the blueprints that I found online. IndieMogul had these linked in their tutorial, but for some reason their website wasn't working, so I went through the comments and finally found them. And so I'll put those down below. I just took 2 pieces of paper and printed them to make this template sort of thing. It's supposed to be the accurate size, but it's a little bit smaller, and yours won't line up with it, but it was great to try and kind of see where all the parts went. So I just want to say now that IndieMogul's tutorial is good, and to a degree it makes sense,
but they kind of messed up with the measurements, and they were very, very fast. So I thought that this is, like, the reason why this tutorial is so long is because I wanted to make it really in-depth so that you guys would understand what's happening. This part doesn't need a lot of talking through. As you can see, it's pretty simple. Right here I'm using paper first so that I can make sure that it'll fit around the portal gun, and these are all the measurements for all that sort of stuff. Very, very easy. If you have any questions, then you can link them down below, or you can email me if you want it to be private, also linked down below. And this is what it looks like. Now, if you use the 4-inch couplings, I am telling you now, if you use those 4-inch couplings on the back, this will be much, much bigger. You'll need a lot more foam, and you won't be able to trace it on a regular sized piece of paper. So just keep that in mind. Just putting that out there. Just cut it out, and then what we did, wherever it was going to be smushed together, we cut an angle just so that it was a little bit easier to glue them together, and just so that they sat more unawkwardly, I guess. I'm not really sure how to word this. Then we took some hot glue, and I recommend you do not let it get through those little cracks. I ended up going over those cracks with the hot glue, and I really recommend not doing that because it was very hard to smoothen it out. So just leave it empty. You can take some tape like you see here and just put a long line over the back piece, and you can leave that little hole there, and then I ended up cleaning it up afterwards, but you want to leave that there unless you want to put some sort of big marble in there or something to make it look cool. There's nothing there on the actual one. So what I did there was I took some rubber bands, and with the rubber bands it helped to hold the foam pieces in place so that when the hot glue was drying it didn't fall off. This is the prong pieces that go in the front, and we're going to spray paint these black when we're done. The plastic piece is from a gallon jug from Publix, and then the other pieces are just foam, and you can see how I cut those out. We just used some hot glue and some machine screws to assemble it, and if you want you can use any other gun that has that sort of nut and bolt technique or whatever you want to call it. And then these are all the measurements for that. And if you want to make it longer or shorter, then you change the longer or shorter pieces. And you also want to cut holes where you saw that circle on the tape piece, and then a slit on the long foam piece in order to screw them together. These things, I lost the footage of me cutting them out. They're just little oval nubs like this. You want to spray paint them white before you cut out little pieces so that the just regular basic crafting wire can go into that, and you can hot glue them, and then you'll see how I assemble them onto the actual portal gun, and these are going to connect to the prongs, which I'm gluing on now. For the prongs that are going to be attached to the foam piece, I recommend using some toothpicks to put them, to like stabilize them a little bit. So just stick toothpicks through the foam pieces to make them more sturdy. Then take the wires, and the one that goes with the closest prong, just hot glue to that. And as you can see which wires go to which. And also keep in mind that those nubs, yes, I understand that they're not symmetrical. That is how they are in the real portal gun. Glue them how you saw I glued them. So then I took some paper and some tape, and I traced out a portal aperture logo. And with some nail polish, colored that in. And if you don't have nail polish, you can get it for $1. You can't use Sharpie because it will smudge due to the shine of the spray paint residue. So this is how it turned out. I am so happy with it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial and it was easy to follow.
This was a triumph. I'm making a note here, huge success. It's hard to overstate my satisfaction.
That was all. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it's a little bit easier to follow than the other tutorials. Hopefully I explained everything good enough, and if I did, let me know down below. If you end up making the portal gun, send me some pictures of it with my email down below. It won't be posted publicly unless you ask me to. So yeah, and don't forget that my other videos will be linked down below, and you want to check those out too. And I think that's about all I have to say. So yeah, don't forget to DIY for life and have a wonderful day. Bye!